right. Well, you can't review the big stories of 2024 without including some of the many highlights in sports. Now, 2024 has been a rough year for a lot of Louisiana teams, but we've also seen huge success from individual athletes competing at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
35 years he's been in the newspaper business here in Baton Rouge. We happen to have been in school together. It's great to have Scott Rabalais here from The Advocate, outstanding columnist and reporter here in Baton Rouge. Good to see you, friend. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.
A little look back on the year that was in sports. And if we start with football, obviously the biggest sport and the one that gets the most attention. You know, it was a big year for LSU, 100 years of the stadium, and then 60 miles down the road, they're celebrating 50 years of the Superdome. Some big milestones for both of those stadiums here.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, the seasons that the two teams had maybe didn't quite, capture that. But it was great to look back on all those great memories and the great games, the great times. And then, the Superdome just had, as we were talking before we got on, this huge renovation to keep it relevant because they're going to be part of the college football playoff where the Sugar Bowl is going to host a quarterfinal game on New Year's Day, and then the Super Bowl is returning once again. So is it important? Is it needed to keep New Orleans in the loop? Absolutely.
Yeah, 11th time they'll host the Super Bowl in February. And then, of course, LSU put out the book and all, as you mentioned, all the memories from Tiger Stadium. Hopefully the teams will have better years next year than they did this year. But while we're talking football, it was big news this year for the Saints, Scott, in the fact that they got rid of Dennis Allen mid-season. This is not a franchise that is used to making coaching changes mid-season. That's something that was very rare.
Definitely, it's not been their MO over the years, but it begs the question: will they stick with Rizzi, the special teams coach? He's done to this point, a decent job as the interim coach, or will they look outside? I'm of the opinion that it's time to kind of blow the whole thing up and rebuild from the ground up. Yep. But that has not been the Saints' MO either.
No.
So we'll see because. Right now, they're just in a mode of just trying to be a division contender, and it's not getting them anywhere close to playing in a Super Bowl, hosting one.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Let's talk about some of the positive things that happened over the calendar year, and I'll start here in Baton Rouge on the women's basketball side. What a year Simone Augustus had. Inducted into 4 Halls of Fame, and then gets hired on as an assistant coach for Kim Mulkey and the Lady Tigers. You just know those practices must be something. But like myself, you covered it back from the high school days, and we've seen her grow, and now to see this. But what a year she had being honored in 4 different halls, including the Naismith.
Well, it's not often that you have a legend to coach your program, and they got 2. With Kim Mulkey, they're both in the Naismith Hall of Fame, right? And must be something, Victor, to go to work every day, go past your statue, right?
That's right.
That's right outside the PMAC. So, but it's great to have Simone back. Obviously, she brings just this huge name and credibility. She's one of the biggest athletes in the history of the state, in any sport. And she's trying to get her coaching career off the ground, and she decided to come back, and Kim Mulkey found a place for her, and it'll be interesting to see where this partnership goes from here, because she's learning, and she'll tell you that, but she can bring so much skill and so much insight to these players, and probably still take them off the dribble, I would imagine.
Probably still has that crossover. And, of course, she was tabbed as maybe the most important recruit and signee for LSU in any sport at any time. Of course, the women's basketball team plays in the PMAC. How about the women's gymnastics team? Jay Clark finally gets them over the top after all those years with Dee Bro and getting close. He finally gets them over the top, and they win the national championship. That, of course, was at the beginning of the calendar year, or midway through the calendar year. But what an outstanding performance for them to finally be crowned national champs.
That was in April. The doors swung open for them. They had a great team. They won the SEC championship at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans in March. Then in April, they went to Fort Worth for the national championship. And Oklahoma, who was the prohibitive favorite to win again, they bombed out in the semifinal. Had a bunch of fouls on vault. So the opportunity was there for LSU. A lot like the women's basketball team the year before in Dallas, the Final Four when South Carolina lost. And they came through. They were trailing. It was very dramatic. They were trailing by just a fraction going to the final routine. They're on beam, which is
toughest, probably.
Definitely. And they need Aaliyah Finnegan, the very last one. Of course, she goes on to the Olympics for the Philippines, her mother's home country. And all she needs is like a 9.625, and she nails it, a 9.95. And as soon as she landed, she knew she'd done it. And they knew she'd done it. It was a wonderful moment. And like you said, they've come close many times, and to finally get over the hump, that's the most difficult part, is to get the first one, and they have a great team coming back with Haley Bryant, the NCAA all-around champion for this year.
We have about a minute left, and let's talk about maybe what was the biggest one, and it was international, and you had the good fortune of being there, and that's the Olympics. Of course, the Olympics globally, but Louisiana was represented very well, maybe none better than Monroe Duplantis, who did not compete for the U.S., but of course, he's an LSU Tiger. He was recently here in our studio for an interview, but you had a chance to be there, and what was that like to cover it, but also see the LSU athletes and those from Morgan City and everywhere represent Louisiana so well?
Oh, yes. I mean, there were 35 athletes with LSU and or Louisiana ties in the Summer Olympics this year, and Mondo, of course, was tremendous. Talk about dramatic, right? The very last jump, he's already clinched the gold medal, very last jump. Nothing else is happening in the stadium. All the eyes are focused on him, and he clears it to break the world record. And since then has broken it again.
Yes.
And the thing that struck me, Victor, was watching him is that these guys, people like him, like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, they're their own competition.
Right. Yeah, he's in a class of one-on-one with he's competing.
Exactly.
Look, also throughout the year, congratulations to Southern women's soccer team. They made the NCAA tournament for the first time. Will Wade and what he did for McNeese making it to the NCAA tournament. Plenty of stories in 24, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more in 25. And if you want to cover it and you're watching it, make sure you read Scott's columns in The Advocate. It's always great to see you. Happy New Year to you.
You too.
We appreciate you coming and share our stories.